6 Sinister Motel encounters revealed terrifying secrets that haunt those who stay in a nondescript small town. Sarah pulled into the parking lot of a rundown motel, its neon sign flickering ominously above. The fluorescent globe barely lit up the deserted landscape, painting eerie shadows on the cracked pavement. Her heart raced as she glanced at her 2 children, Lily and Max, nestled in their car seats. They had fled an abusive relationship, believing this musty, forgotten place would offer them a moment of respite. As she stepped inside, a wave of warm air enveloped them, heavy like a shroud. The lobby was a testament to neglect, faded wallpaper, an ancient couch that seemed to swallow whispers, and a front desk clerk who wore a too-wide smile that set her on edge. "Welcome, welcome! How can I help you today?" His voice dripped with sickly sweetness, and Sarah felt a chill race down her spine. She brushed it off. She was here for her kids. They trudged down the dimly lit hallway. The walls felt like they were closing in, whispering secrets that only she could hear. Shadows flickered like they had their own lives. When she opened the door to their room, a hollow creak resonated, as if the building itself were sighing in relief at the burden of their presence. It didn't take long for strange things to start happening. The nights turned into a symphony of unsettling sounds, low humming, unsettling creaks, and sporadic bursts of eerie laughter that seemed to drift through the cracked walls. Sarah's heart raced with dread. She noticed others around, a frantic salesman with wild eyes constantly peering through the blinds, a couple engaged in hushed conversations that ended as soon as she stepped close, and a former soldier hovering in the corner, recounting tales about the motel's haunted past, tales that chilled her to the bone. As midnight approached, whispers of dark spirits seemed to engulf her room. Sarah watched in horror as Lily and Max began to laugh, their innocent giggles twisted into something sinister. "Mr. Shadow is here, Mommy," Lily whispered, enthralled by something unseen. Panic surged through Sarah. She tried to keep them close, clutching them tight, promising they'd leave at dawn. But just as she was about to pack their bags, there was a soft knock on the door. The clerk stood there, his demeanor now foreboding. "Leaving so soon, Sarah?" he said with a smirk, his eyes darkening, zeroing in on the children. "The night has only just begun, and there is so much more you need to understand. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The walls felt alive, pulsing with energy as she tried to escape his gaze. Shadows danced, elongating and twisting, threatening to engulf her. The laughter echoed louder, a haunting call that made her blood run cold. She tried to push past him, but he stepped in closer, a predatory calm glinting in his eyes. "Come back, Sarah," he whispered, the very air thick with the unknown. "Your future is tied to this place, whether you like it or not." The motel throbbed with an ancient darkness, each moment thick with dread. She stood frozen, questioning everything as she gripped the doorknob, feeling the cold metal biting into her palm. Outside, the laughter of her children mingled with voices from the corridor, a cacophony that drew her closer, even as her instincts screamed to run. What had they stumbled into? The truth awaited, lurking just beyond the shadows, waiting to pull them into its depths. A heavy silence hung in the air, thickening around Sarah like fog, trapping her in its suffocating embrace. She glanced back at her children, their eyes gleaming, fixed not on her but on something else. Her breath hitched in her throat as she felt the hard stare of the clerk dig deeper into her. "Mommy, Mr. Shadow says we can stay forever," Max giggled, blissfully unaware of the danger. The clerk leaned in, his smile widening, revealing teeth that seemed just a bit too sharp. "No need to leave, really," he taunted, savoring each word. "This place can offer you what you've always wanted. Safety, protection. Isn't that what you need? Isn't that what your children deserve?" Sarah's heart thundered wildly as a sick feeling pooled in her stomach. She yanked the door open, pushing against him, but he remained solid, like a wall, unyielding. "Get away from us!" she screamed. Alarm bells rang in her mind, and adrenaline surged through her. She turned, ushering Lily and Max back into the room, locking the door with shaking hands. The fluorescent light flickered ominously above, causing shadows to stretch and pulse on the walls. Outside, the hallway echoed with muffled whispers and giggles, horrific laughter that sounded wrong. It wasn't the laughter of innocent children, it was derisive, malevolent. Sarah pressed her back against the door, her pulse racing, the voices clawing at her sanity. "Mommy," Lily called softly, her voice filled with an unsettling calm. "He is coming." Panic gripped Sarah as she turned to see her daughter staring at the corner of the room. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and a shadow slithered across the wall. It twisted and shaped itself into something darker, more substantial. A figure with no discernible features, just a void where a face should be. "Mommy, look! He wants to play!" Max reached his hand toward the creature, his innocent excitement cutting deep into Sarah's chest like a blade. "Don't!" she shouted, lunging to pull him back. The shadow jerked slightly as if it recoiled from her voice, but then pressed forward, expanding, filling the room with darkness. Sarah couldn't breathe. Sudden knocks raced through the walls, a frantic staccato that pounded like a heartbeat. Was it the clerk? Or something far worse, urging her to succumb to the growing dread? The room spun, and an icy sweat coated her skin, a stark contrast to the monstrous heat in the air. Then, the whispers escalated, filling the corners of the room. "Join us forever," choose the shadows taunted, their words becoming a chant, hauntingly hypnotic. "Mommy, can we stay?" Lily's voice drifted through the chaos. Her eyes sparkled, the faint hint of longing fusing with dark allure. "No!" Sarah screamed, clutching her children tighter, feeling their small bodies quiver against her. She had to get them out. Gathering every ounce of courage, she spun to the door, but it was as if the air had thickened into a wall. The shadows coalesced, blocking her escape, a moving barrier pulsating with ancient, insatiable hunger. "Don't run, Sarah," the clerk's voice came through the door, silky and slithering. "You can't hide from the truth." Desperation surged through her. She had to fight. "Get away from us." She pulled her children close, her heart raw with fear, ready to take on whatever horror awaited them. But the shadows inhaled, drawing closer, whispering an invitation that promised suffering, secrets, and despair. Suddenly, a voice emerged from the shadows, a deep rumble that seemed to resonate from the very walls. "Do you wish to know the truth, Sarah? Or would you rather remain blissfully unaware?" A chilling silence followed, broken only by the whispers that crept closer. The question hung in the air like a noose. Would they turn a blind eye, or plunge into the abyss? What awaited them in the depths of that malevolent truth? The tension snapped, the door trembling under an unseen force, blending terror and temptation. When the children joined in the whispering chant, pleading and summoning, Sarah felt her will waver. She had a choice to make. What would she ultimately uncover? In this sinister place? The walls trembled as the shadow expanded, forcing Sarah to take a step back. It was an imposing mass, swirling and shifting, like an amalgamation of nightmares. She could feel its presence wrapping around her, every breath perfumed with fear. "Mommy, let us play!" Max's enthusiastic voice pierced through the veil of terror, innocent yet eerily distorted by the looming darkness. "He says we'll have so much fun." "Fun isn't what he means!" Sarah cried, her voice taut with desperation. She shot a glance towards her daughter. Lily's small face was painted with fascination. "He is not your friend." The whispering crescendo broke her off, a chorus of twisted voices melding together, drawing her in. "Come play with us. Join the eternal. You will never feel lonely, never feel pain, no." Sarah screamed again, shaking her head violently. She turned to the children, her hands gripping their small arms. "We need to get out, now." Suddenly, the door rattled violently as if something on the other side was trying to force its way in. The clerk's voice echoed again, softer now, almost coaxing. You're safe here, you can be with the shadows forever. With a grunt of determination, Sarah rushed to the small window. She pressed her face against the cold glass, looking out into the abyss of night beyond. The parking lot was bathed in eerie moonlight, casting stark shadows of abandoned cars. She could see nothing beyond, nothing but darkness swallowing everything like a hungry beast. "Mommy, please!" Lily begged, her voice trembling. "Mr. Shadow said it'll be okay if we stay, Lily, no!" The panic in Sarah's voice broke free, spilling into the room's charged atmosphere like a wildfire. "Look at what he is! He is nothing but a lie!" The shadows began to writhe, their forms mocking her, swirling and undulating on the walls, whispering promises of power, peace, and belonging. They were relentless. Chills ran down Sarah's spine as she felt them brush against her skin like icy fingers. Then, a sudden shift, the shadows parted, creating a narrow pathway toward the door. Sarah fought against her instincts that screamed at her to stay. But there it was, an escape, however fleeting. "Go, go!" she urged her children, shoving them toward the space open before her. But the children remained rooted in place, their eyes glazed, drinking in the dark promises weaving through the air. "We want to stay, Mommy," they chorused. "No! We can't!" Panic rocketed through her, threatening to pull her under. "You don't understand. This is wrong." The whispers grew louder, poured into Sarah's mind, drowning her thoughts. "You hear them, Sarah? They want to join us, they wish to be with the shadow." In a moment of clarity, she lunged forward, grabbing Max by the shoulder. "Come on!" she half shouted, half pleaded, shaking him. For a precious second, his gaze shifted back to her, blinking as if awakening from a dream. "Lily, grab my hand!" Sarah screamed, her heart thundering as she yanked Max toward the opening. And no sooner had they started to move than the clerk's voice erupted from beyond the door, now raw and strained. "Foolishness! You will regret this choice. You can't escape the truth, Sarah." Desperation coursed through her. She felt the haunting embrace of the shadow creeping back, grasping for her, for them. The specter of darkness was relentless, ready to reclaim its targets. "Now!" she shouted, planting one foot behind her, pushing her body into the opening of darkness. At that moment, she could either face the fear outside the room or succumb to the sinister promises swirling around her children. But as the children complied, Sarah felt another shadow flicker behind her, something smaller, something intimately familiar. "Mommy," it was a distant whisper, different yet familiar. "Why don't you want to play?" Her insides twisted at the realization, and she felt as if the ground beneath her would swallow her whole. The air turned dull, suffocating. Let us find out who really wants to stay. And with that haunting invitation, Sarah's heart dropped. Was this the truth she had been avoiding? Would she be torn between her children and the lure of a darkness that promised eternal bliss? Each heartbeat pulsed through the room, an unfinished echo waiting for the choice to be made. What would she decide as the walls began to close in around them? The darkness enveloped her, wrapping tightly around Sarah, its grip suffocating. Her heart thumped violently in her chest as she shifted her gaze from the doorway to the shadows swirling around her children. They stood entranced, eyes wide and unblinking, caught in a sinister web spun by the entity that called itself Mr. Shadow. "Stay with us, Mommy," Lily murmured, her voice light and airy, almost hypnotic. Every word tugged at Sarah's insides, ichor twisting through her veins. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, leaving her overwhelmed with dread. "No!" she couldn't let go. "We need to leave. This isn't real." The shadows shuddered, reacting to her defiance. They writhed violently along the walls, as if angered by her refusal. A desperate thought crossed her mind. Could she rip them free from this thrall? Taking a breath, she pushed down the panic, focusing on the two small faces before her. "Lily! Max! Listen to me!" She stepped closer, her hands shaking as she grasped their shoulders, feeling their warmth, their humanity. "Please! You need to hear me!" She spoke with fervor, desperation, wrestling against the creeping dread curling in her gut. "This isn't fun, it's a trap. Look at me. Look at your mother. For a moment, she saw recognition flicker in Max's eyes, a tiny spark defiantly fighting against the haze. Mommy? He murmured, confusion etched across his small features. Well, the clerk's voice snaked through the air again, low and venomous. It seems someone doesn't want to play shut up. Sarah shouted, the anger pushing her forward. The shadows twisted violently at the sound, coiling in a maddening frenzy. Mommy, please. Lily's voice broke through again, the innocence sending a lance of ice through Sarah's heart. He wants us to stay forever. Not forever. Sarah spat as her resolve hardened. She knew what needed to be done. It's false. It's all lies. The shadows flared back, screaming now, the cacophony vibrating through the air, rattling the very core of her being. Join us. Join us. They shrieked, furious at the push against their seductive hold. In that moment, the ground quaked beneath her feet as a tremor coursed through the room. This was not just a battle for their freedom. It was a fight against despair, against surrendering to lies that gnawed at the edges of her mind. Lily, grab my hand! Sarah shouted, making a desperate leap forward. She grasped Max tighter, coaxing him back to reality with her touch. I need you to hold on to me, okay? We can get out of here together. Max blinked, panic flashing behind his eyes as the dark whispers shrouded him like fog. Mommy, I'm scared. Me too, Sarah admitted brutally, her voice raw. But I'll protect you. Let us go. In that fleeting moment, she noticed the shadows draw back slightly, as if sensing the unity and love binding them as a family, something it could never possess. Join us, Sarah. It was a new voice, softer, hauntingly familiar. A figure emerged from the folds of shadow, the shapeless remnants reforming into an echo of someone she had lost. Why fight it? Don't you want to play? Terror gripped her heart. No. I don't. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. A desperate plea masked under layers of denial. The echoes of laughter erupted, sending ripples of dread coursing through the air. The familiar face gleamed, both inviting and menacing. You always wanted to be with us, to never feel alone. The swirling chaos intensified, and for a second, everything felt like a web closing in. What if she was wrong? What if, deep down, she craved this twisted sanctuary? Lily! Max! Now! She yelled, dread pushing her to the edge. The shadows clawed at her resolve, clawing at her darkness. As Sarah lunged toward the open darkness of the doorway, she felt something, a pull, a weight of force behind her, closing in. Choose us, Sarah, but who was she really choosing? The walls pulsed, a heartbeat of darkness growing louder, threatening to drown her out. And in that terror-stricken moment, she realized the true price of playing with shadows. What would she surrender in order to save them? The final confrontation loomed. In a heartbeat, she would decide. The darkness closed in, an oppressive shroud that swallowed the room whole. Only the faint distinctions of her children's outlines flickered in the murky abyss. Sarah felt as if she was suffocating, the air thickening around her, tasting of metal and dread. Every heartbeat resonated with the eerie laughter still echoing from the shadows, distorting her reality further. Mommy! Max's voice trembled, straining against the intoxicating allure of the dark. He looked terrified, lost between worlds. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah clutched his shoulders, grim determination coursing through her veins. Listen to me. We have to fight him. We're stronger together. The shadows hissed a sound that sliced through her resolve. You think love can save you? They taunted, the chorus rising and falling like the tide. Mommy Lily's voice, small and terrified, broke the spell momentarily. I'm scared. Me too, but we can't let him win. Sarah felt the energy of their connection, raw and vibrant, but was it enough? The weight of despair pressed against her chest, trying to pull her under. Come play with us, Mommy. The familiar figure from before lurked in the swirling depth, its features shifting and twisting. Don't you miss the laughter? The peace? Its voice was a taunt, weaving memories of a time before the nightmare. All around them, shadows flickered ominously, spilling secrets that crawled through Sarah's mind, regrets, failures, moments that hung like a heavy fog. What if I did let go? She thought fleetingly. What if it meant peace? Pulling away from the shadow's promises was one of the hardest things she'd ever faced. But you're not real! She shouted, her voice barely holding against the overwhelming darkness. You're a lie. Then why are you so tempted? The voice taunted, echoing through the void. Each step you take, we draw closer, don't we? You can't resist it. The ground trembled violently beneath them again, forcing Sarah to wrap her arms tighter around her children. Hold on! She screamed as the shadows recoiled, angered by her defiance. Lily gasped, eyes wide. They're getting angry, Mommy. Let them be angry. They feed on fear. We want to give them what they want. With each word, Sarah felt a fragment of strength return. If she could help them remember, if she could ignite even the smallest spark of defiance within her children, they could break free. Focus on me, she urged, locking her gaze on Max and Lily. Think of the park. The swings. The way the sun feels on your face. She poured every ounce of love into her voice, gripping their tiny hands fiercely. The shadows writhed, shrieking in frustration. No! You cannot escape. We are here, forever. Your memories belong to us. In that instant, a bright beam of light pierced through the darkness, blinding her. It hurt her eyes. Was it finally a way out? Or just another trap laid by Mr. Shadow? Run! Now! She yelled, cracking through the shimmering light, the air electric around them, clutching her children tightly as they rushed forward, the pull of the darkness weakening. But before they could fully breach the threshold, the shrieks rose to an ear-splitting crescendo, a final desperate attempt to drag them back. Join us, you are ours! The shadows fought back, stretching out tendrils of darkness, latching onto her ankles. No! We're leaving! With a primal scream, Sarah shoved back against the looming weight, willing every fiber of her being to burst through the barrier. Suddenly, she felt the ground beneath her tremble, not from fear, but from her defiance. The shadows burned and writhed, a palpable anger rising as she dragged Max and Lily through the blinding light, and just as they broke free, a voice whispered sweetly, chilling her to her core. You can't run away from what you are. You'll return. Sarah, you'll come back to play. They stumbled into an unfamiliar realm, brighter, yet draped in a haze of twilight. Sarah fell to her knees, gasping for breath, panic clawing at her heart. They'd escaped the darkness, but at what cost? Are we safe, Mommy? Lily asked, her small fingers trembling against Sarah's arm. I don't know, but we're here, together. But even as she spoke, she felt a shadow lurking, lingering just beyond the edges of the light. What if Mr. Shadow had merely been biding his time? What if the game had only just begun? A chilling realization washed over her as the laughter echoed in the distance. We're not free. Not yet. The true fight was about to begin. The air around Sarah was thick with unease, a disquieting reminder of the nightmares they had barely escaped. The faint warmth of the twilight haze was oddly deceptive, teasing her senses like a security blanket that might unravel at any moment. She looked around for signs of a way out, the anxiety gripping her heart tighter with every second. Mommy, I don't like this place, Max whispered, his voice taut with apprehension. Sarah's instincts screamed that lurking danger wasn't merely a figment of their imagination. I know. But we have to stay close. Remember what I said, we're stronger together. Her words felt hollow, a bravado she hoped would shield them from the horror that loomed in the unknown. Just beyond the haze, the whispers began, the shadows returning, slithering through the air like serpents. Although they couldn't see Mr. Shadow, she felt his presence linger, heavy and suffocating. You're not free, Sarah, the voice cooed softly, undulating in and out of her mind. You belong to me. Get away from us. She shouted, clenching her fists, determination flaring in her chest. But her anger felt like a candle flickering against an approaching storm. Lily squeezed her arm. Mommy, look! Sarah followed her daughter's trembling finger and gasped. A dilapidated motel stood just beyond the veil of twilight, forlorn and crumbling like a tombstone. The neon sign flickered dimly, the letters spelling out, vacancy, as if beckoning them towards its grasp. The very air around it felt tainted, dripping with a past they could not comprehend, Without thinking, Sarah took a step forward. A desperate hope flickered inside her. Perhaps the motel held answers, perhaps it held the key to breaking the cycle they had been ensnared in. As they approached, a cloud of dust swirled at their feet, and the door creaked open, inviting them inside. "Is it safe?" Max's voice was barely above a whisper, fear draining the color from his cheeks. "We have to try for us," Sarah replied, forcing her voice steady. The children followed her as she entered, hesitantly stepping over the threshold, which felt like crossing into another world. Inside, the dim light cast eerie shapes upon the cracked walls, shadows scoffing in the corners. It was unsettling, nothing but empty rooms and faded memories. "Do you think anyone still lives here?" Lily asked, eyeing a chair that rocked gently, as if recently occupied. "No, I think it's just us," Sarah sighed, shivering. The paranoid sensation of being watched sunk in deep, unsettling her more than the laughter they had heard earlier. The front desk stood ghostly still, a bell sitting atop it, dust-covered and untouched. An old ledger lay open, pages yellowed, smelling faintly of mildew. Compelled by something she couldn't resist, Sarah stepped closer, her fingers grazing over the names scribbled. Some were recent, others decades old. "Look, Mommy!" Max said suddenly, pointing to scribbled names, as if the letters were shifting under the light. "They don't have last names, maybe they were never found," Sarah mused, but dread seeped into her words. She felt something dark looming over them, an oppressive presence pulled from the shadows like a heavy rain cloud. The bell on the desk rang sharply, cutting through her thoughts in a breathless surge. "Anyone here?" A raspy voice croaked, echoing from the rear of the motel. A figure began to emerge from the back room, a host for their nightmarish reality. "Stay behind me," Sarah barked, steeling herself against the twisted visage inching closer. "Can we play?" It hissed, its mouth stretching into a grin that revealed teeth far too sharp and unnatural. Heart racing, Sarah looked down at Max and Lily, their hands clutching her tightly, their eyes wide with horror. She had to think fast. "Let us go. Now!" she shouted, grabbing her children and turning to flee, but the twisted laughter followed them as they raced down the hallway. The walls pulsated, shadows reaching out, trying to pull them back into the abyss. Suddenly, a door swung open to her right, beckoning with a blinding light. "Quick! We have to jump!" Sarah urged, the desperation in her voice strong as they charged towards it. But as they crossed the threshold, she felt a cold hand brush against her ankle, and a familiar, sinister voice hissed from the darkness behind them, "You can run, but you'll never be free." What had they awakened? What horrors awaited them on the other side? As they stumbled through the blinding light, Sarah realized with horror that their journey had only just begun. The true depths of madness were waiting just outside, waiting for them to step into the night once again. Blinded by the sudden glow, Sarah felt her heart lurch in her chest. The warmth of the light surrounded them, wrapping around her like a long-forgotten embrace. But the comfort fled as quickly as it arrived. As her vision cleared, she realized they were in a small, barren room. The air was cooler here, the walls cracked and peeling, draping the space in an unsettling stillness. Max and Lily huddled closely against her, their breaths fast and shallow, faces pale with fear. "No, no, no," Sarah whispered, panic clawing at her throat. Was this a safe place? She forced her eyes to scan the corners, dread crawling beneath her skin. There was no exit, no door. Only the unsettling hum of silence, swarming with dread. "Where are we?" Max squeaked, his small voice cutting through the heavy air like a knife. "I don't know," she replied, glancing around for any sign of safety, any way out. The light flickered once, casting erratic shadows that seemed to dance and taunt her. Suddenly, the soft pitch of laughter fluttered through the air. It wrapped around them like a dark cloud, chilling Sarah to the bone. "It can hear us," she hissed, pulling her children closer. They stood as a fragile wall against the encroaching threat. The laughter echoed again, clearer this time, growing everything taut with anticipation. "Playtime isn't over yet," the voice sang, a haunting melody twisting through the cramped space. It felt almost familiar, sending chills down her spine. "Mommy!" Lily whimpered, her wide eyes darting towards a shadow that flickered in the far corner. The shape elongated, bending in ways that made Sarah's stomach turn. "Let us begin again," it crooned, creeping closer with each word, its body an amalgamation of darkness and pale, twisting limbs. Its face was a void, an absence of everything, and yet somehow, it still wore a grin. "Don't look at it!" Sarah shrieked, grabbing Lily and Max, yanking them toward the opposite wall. Desperation twisted through her veins faster than the fear already surging. "Do something! Anything!" But before she could react, the shadows around them seemed to thicken, forming grasping hands that recoiled, clawing for her children. She felt their clammy fingers brush against her skin, sending icy tendrils racing up her spine. "Take their places," the voice whispered, reveling in the horror throbbing in the air. A fresh wave of terror crashed over Sarah. "No! You want to take them!" In a burst of adrenaline, she surged towards the shadow, a futile attempt to protect her children at all costs. She felt the cold brush of mist swirl around her ankles and pull her feet back, locking her in place. "Let them go!" she screamed, teeth gritted, heart racing dangerously fast. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned. Then, the laughter erupted loud and mocking, filling the room and gnawing at her sanity. With a desperate lunge, Sarah slammed her hand flat against the wall behind her, expecting wood and plaster, but a strange hum pulsed deep within. It vibrated, a hidden heartbeat, and as she pressed harder, the wall shuddered. "Mommy!" Max cried out, struggling against an unseen force. "Hold on!" she shouted, panting from fear and fatigue. "Hold on to me!" The energy surged, and the world around them trembled. Lighting flickered dim and bright, filling them and the shadow with disorienting light. The figure hesitated, the shadowed hand lingering uncertainly. But that momentary pause felt like an eternity. They had to escape. Sarah felt the creeping weight of despair. Time was not on their side. "Lily, Max, take my hand!" she commanded, fingers trembling as they reached out to her. Just as they clasped her hands, the figure spasmed, laughter bubbling over, and the walls began to bend, warping the very fabric of reality. "Playtime is just beginning," the voice hissed in a thrilling whisper, as the world around them twisted into an unimaginable void. What dark games awaited their next move? Where would they land if they ever broke free? With the shadows clawing at them like frantic beasts, Sarah braced for the unknown ahead. Losing her sense of time, Sarah gritted her teeth, her mind racing. The world around her spun wildly as the darkness clawed at their legs, gripping tighter with each heartbeat. She squeezed her children's hands, praying the connection would anchor them. "Don't let go," she urged, her voice a breathless whisper. The weight of the shadows pressed down, suffocating, their laughter echoing like a twisted lullaby. With a guttural roar, the trembling ground beneath them bulged, the walls warping as if alive. A jagged crack split through the center, revealing a crimson glow that pulsated ominously. The air thickened, transforming each breath into a laborious effort. "Mommy, what is happening?" Lily's voice quivered, terror glazed over her innocent features. Sarah's heart sank. "Stay close. Hold on tight." Each word dragged heavy with uncertainty, every syllable punctuated by fear. The crimson light lined the crack, illuminating dark tendrils that slithered into the room, closing in like grasping hands. They moved with purpose, as if alive, intent on snatching away her children. The laughter sharpened, piercing the tension with every higher note. "Time to play hide and seek," it trilled, swirling around them, vicious and chaotic. "What are we hiding from?" Max whimpered, eyes darting, searching for something unseen. The panic threatened to overtake Sarah, but she forced it down. "Something old, something hungry," the voice crooned, dripping with malice. The light flickered again, and Sarah recognized it. It reminded her of the way it had welcomed them in. "This way." She yanked her children toward the crack, the faint light spilling into her vision like a beacon. Maybe, just maybe, that was the way out. As they approached, the shadows recoiled, hissing like 1,000 snakes. The moment they drew closer, the sharp edges of the crack rippled, the crimson glow pulsing violently as if sensing their intent. "Let us get through," Sarah shouted, desperation coursing through her veins as she barreled towards the light, dragging Max and Lily after her. The walls shuddered around them, wild and chaotic, but they couldn't stop now. "Don't look back," she barked, feeling the pull of darkness grow more intense, trying to coil around them like a vice. But the voice sang once more, its tone almost playful now. "You can't escape. It only makes the game more fun." Then, with a final thrust, she pushed her children through the crack. They fell forward, landing hard on something solid. Sarah blinked, vision dizzying as she tried to comprehend where they were. The room felt different, a numbing chill creeping into her bones. They were no longer in the shadowy cell, they stood in a dimly lit corridor of what looked like a motel, the walls lined with peeling floral wallpaper. "Are we safe?" Max asked, wide-eyed. Sarah looked around, her instincts screaming at her. "I don't know." But the air was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the distant sound of a door creaking open. Her heart thundered. "We should keep moving," she urged, starting down the corridor, the shadows lingering just behind them, twining in a game of pursuit. Shadows didn't just follow. They hunted. Every step echoed ominously, each sound magnified in the stillness. The lights flickered above, bathing them in an eerie glow. It felt as if eyes watched from every dark corner, unseen but omnipresent. Mommy Lily's voice broke into a whisper, fear dripping from every syllable. "Stay close," Sarah replied, her pulse quickening. They continued onward, checking for any doors or windows. Any way out. But the corridor stretched endlessly, a surreal maze wrapping around them. Then, a familiar voice echoed down the hall, a cold and jagged laughter that sent shivers coursing through her. "Did you really think you could run away?" Sarah froze, panic forming a tight knot in her gut. It was still here, lurking just beyond their grasp. "Tread lightly," it taunted. "The game has only just begun." What twisted fate awaited them around the corner? Would they find salvation or descend further into the nightmare? As her heart pounded, fog creeping in around her mind, one question consumed her: what secrets did this place hold? Every instinct screamed at Sarah to run, to take her children and flee as fast as possible. But something held her in place, a hypnotic grip that made her blood run cold. The laughter echoed again, a cruel reminder of their peril. The shadows danced at the edges of her vision, creeping closer, more insistent, as if eager to snatch them back into the dark. "Mommy, please," Lily whimpered, clutching at Sarah's leg, eyes wide with dread. Max mirrored his sister's fear, peering into the gloom beyond where they stood. Time twisted, each fleeting second felt like hours. Back to the door, Sarah whispered urgently, hardly breathing as she turned, dragging Max and Lily behind her. She thought of the light from the crack, nearly forgotten now, and the instinct to retreat swelled within her. But the quiet hum of the corridor felt almost worse. They started moving backward, slow and precise. Each step seemed heavy, as if the air thickened with every inch. The floorboards creaked beneath their weight, the sound mingling with the hollow laughter echoing around them. Then it hit, a sudden burst of sound, the haunting melody of a grim lullaby that seemed to seep from the very walls. "Follow sweet dreams," the voice sang, slithering through the air. It was a voice Sarah recognized, yet twisted and wrong. "Come play with us, Mommy!" Max yelled, the panic spilling over as the room trembled with the weight of the voice. "It's here!" Before she could respond, Sarah turned and spotted a door a few feet away, slightly ajar. It flickered with pale light, beckoning but holding its own ominous secrets. "They want us to stay. We need to get through there," she urged, racing toward the door, dragging her children along. As they stumbled into the room, a heavy chill pulled around them, settling like a damp blanket. The walls were stark and bare, devoid of any pictures or warmth. Just a small window tucked at the end, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. The air tasted metallic, biting into her tongue. But the laughter was louder now. It poured in through the door, twisting and curling around the room. Sarah slammed the door shut, her breath coming in quick gasps. "We can't stay here. We have to find another way out." She turned to inspect the room, desperate for a sign, a clue, anything. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest as the children clung to her, eyes wide, shadows pooling in their gaze. "Look!" Lily cried, pointing at a small dresser in the corner. "There's something there." Sarah approached cautiously, each step laced with anxiety. The dresser was old, wood-chipped and weathered, but something shimmered in the low light. She opened the drawer, her pulse quickening as she uncovered a dusty journal. The front was worn, but she could still make out a title scratched faintly, "The Souls of Whispering Pines." "What's that?" Max breathed, stepping closer. "Don't touch it!" Sarah snapped, her instincts flaring as she flipped through the brittle pages filled with scrawled notes and desperate warnings. There were names listed, each followed by cryptic symbols and scratched-out phrases. Names that felt disturbingly familiar. "Mommy, I feel funny," Lily murmured, stumbling back as the air thickened, shadows creeping hungrily toward them. Sarah hushed quietly, mind racing. The shadows were closing in again, the laughter rising to a fever pitch. They needed to leave before the darkness swallowed them whole. The door rattled, a malicious chuckle seeping through the cracks. "You found our little secret, now let us play." With a rush of adrenaline, Sarah thrust the journal at Max. "Hold this. We need to get to that window." But as she turned, she froze. The shadows morphed before her eyes, taking shape, faces, features twisted in agony, reaching for her in the dim light. "Mommy! They're coming!" Max screamed, his body shaking as he clutched the journal tighter. "Run!" Sarah shouted. The door slammed open, and they were thrust into chaos. What awaited them outside? What did the journal reveal? Every breath felt like a countdown to calamity. The game was far from over. The air crackled with electric tension as Sarah gripped the journal tightly, its pages whispering secrets meant to stay hidden. The darkness breathed around them, swelling with heartbeat-like intensity, the shadows morphing into grotesque shapes that leered hungrily. "We have to go. Now!" she commanded, her voice breaking through the chaos, urgency flooding her with every word. Through the whirling dread and mocking laughter, Sarah pushed her children toward the distant window, each thud of their feet echoing like a countdown through her mind. The shadows shrieked, their sinister voices entwining her senses. "You can't escape. Join us forever," they wailed, but she wouldn't let them. "Not today. Hold on to my arm," she shouted, her heart racing faster than ever before. With each forceful tread, the air thickened, shadows twisting around their feet like tendrils of a living nightmare. She turned and stumbled toward the window, the blinding light beckoning them, radiating like a lighthouse through a turbulent storm. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the shadows, a distorted image of the clerk, his wolfish grin grotesquely wide. "Where do you think you're going, Sarah? You belong to us," he hissed as if the walls echoed his dark promise. She felt a pull, a fierce desire to succumb to the darkness, weaving into her thoughts, tempting her with visions of endless safety and bliss. Something in her heart rebelled. She couldn't allow her children to follow this road of shadows. "Not today!" Sarah shouted defiantly, forcing her thoughts back into lucidity, wrapping her arms around her children with fierce resolve. "We go forward, together." With one last surge of effort, Sarah hurled the journal towards the light. It hit the window with a dull thud, and for an instant, reality rippled. The shadows shrieked, their forms flickering and destabilizing. The window flared, illuminating the room in blinding warmth, fractures of light breaking through the malevolence. "Through the window!" she yelled, shoving her children forward, the warmth engulfing them. But then a chilling voice breached the light. "You want to escape. The game never ends, Sarah," echoed in her ears as cold fingers clawed at her ankles, trying to pull her back. Yet courage surged through her chest, fierce and unyielding. She knew what she had to do. "Jump!" she commanded, feeling the weight of the darkness trying to drag her down. As they leapt, she felt a swirling void take hold of her despair. Hands grasped at her from behind, but she turned, a primal scream echoing in the air. "You'll never have us!" Sarah cried, forcing herself forward, an energy igniting her very being. They landed on cool grass, the moonlight pouring down, casting shadows outward instead of inward, the night shedding its threat like an unwanted cloak. She gasped for breath, the world spinning back into focus. They were free outside the suffocating walls, but she felt the lingering shadows swirl behind her. "Mommy?" Max's small voice trembled, his innocence anchoring her amidst the chaos. "We're safe, baby. We're safe," she breathed deeply, feeling the warmth of the night wrap around them. But a drifting chill brought a sharp return to fear when the laughter echoed in the distance, haunting yet far away. She turned and scanned the darkened landscape. "We need to go," Sarah urged. They took off running, adrenaline coursing through their veins, feet pounding against the ground in concert, a three-person heartbeat united against the terror they had escaped. But as they reached the edge of the town, the whispers called again, an unending echo that seeped into the night air. "You can't run from us, Sarah, you belong with me," the shadows taunted, echoing in the recesses of her mind. "No!" Sarah howled defiantly. She tightened her hold on Lily and Max, reminding herself that they carried their own light. Their laughter shone brighter than any darkness. "I choose them," she declared, voice strong against the shadows that loomed, and they ran faster, each breath a promise of survival, a stepping stone away from darkness, ushered into dawn's embrace. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the horizon, washing the world in hues of gold, comfort seeped into her bones. The shadows shrank back, consumed by the sunlight, their laughter fading as if carried away on the breeze. They were free. Breathless, they collapsed onto the grass together again, with nothing but the vast, warm sky above them. "We did it!" Lily squealed, breaking into laughter that rang pure in the morning light. "Yes, we did." Sarah smiled, heart swelling with relief, tears escaping her eyes. But she knew their fight was forever marked an unshakable bond with fear and darkness, always lurking at the edges of their mind. Yet in the face of dread, love had prevailed. "Now let us go home," Sarah whispered, knowing that love would always lead the way even in shadows, and with laughter in their hearts, they all got up, hand in hand, stepping into the warmth of a new dawn together, always together, forever free. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss this thrilling journey and future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this story. You've got the power to spread the thrill, don't hold back.